3, 2, 1, and we're live. Whenever you are, wherever you are, thank you for joining the Design of Everyday People, where I talk to senior designers from all over the world and you literally get to ask them anything. So stick around at the tail end of this conversation where you can get your questions answered. But like always, let's make this session as interactive as possible. If you're listening on YouTube or LinkedIn, just drop in emoji or whatever city you're calling in from and just listening to this conversation. Okay, so throughout this, I'll try and bring up some comments from you guys. And it seems like we're live on LinkedIn, a little bit of a lag. So that's good. All right. So before we start this session, I want to talk about my little side project as it's the theme of today. And I want to tell you about something I've been working on in the past 8 months, and I call it Backlog. Backlog is my effort to help designers build their independent businesses and side projects. Why? Because we are the voice of the customer, and my wish is to have more and build more in opinionated products and urge you to make what you want in the world to exist for all designers out there. And that's the goal of Backlog, right? And we do this by a few different ways. Sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Two ways: community, a group of folks on the same journey that you can learn from, and coaching. Excuse me. That happens with live events, and coaching, a thought partner to help you solve problems. And we have members working on agency, freelancing, newsletter, digital products, and of course, personal branding and content creation. So if you want to start your next side project, it's the right place to get support. You can just scan this little QR code up here if that sounds interesting. And, hopefully in 2025, it's the first time you're going to build something for yourself or start that side project that you've always wanted to. So yeah, scan this or visit backlog.design, which I'm going to post in the chat on LinkedIn, but it should be somewhere in YouTube, backlog.design. And let's just get back to the show. Where's my buttons? Okay, I haven't done this for a while. The holiday break has broken me. So welcome to how to start a side project with a 9 to 5. Let's go for quick introductions. I'm Chris, founder of UX Playbook. But before that, a self-taught designer struggling to get into UX. And now I spend most of my time helping designers navigate a fuzzy UX career with UX Playbook, from building your first portfolio to leading your first design team. Fun fact, UX Playbook actually started as a side project until it became a main project. And we can talk about more of that later, but I digress. Today, I'm joined by Filip Gres, a design lead, a creator of GriddyIcons, and a side project connoisseur. So let's get him out here. It's the second time he's on. So for the folks who've seen the first one, but let's get him out here and so he can tell us more about himself. Hey man, how's it going?
Hi everyone. Yeah, good. Like, very happy to join this call and talk about what we are the most passionate about, the side projects.
We do love our side projects, don't we? So for the folks that don't know you, just give us a little introduction.
Yeah. So my name is Fillip. I work as a design lead at Mimo, which is like startup. Even though, like, yes, we still call it startup, even though it's there for almost 8 years or 9. I don't remember even. We teach users how to code. You can check mimo.org. But besides my 9 to 5, I work a lot on my other side projects. One of which you might know is the GriddyIcons. It's just like a pack of icons I create, and I like build this huge set myself, and I'm still like adding all the new icons every month. But then I also have like many other side projects and ideas in the backlog, and not just like that. It's not only the design projects, right, and or the digital projects, but I also do like a lot of like crafts. I have 3D printer. I like to create physical projects. So even though today I think we will mostly talk about digital projects as side projects, but doesn't necessarily need to be digital project, right? Like you can have other side projects as well.
Exactly, man. Yeah, exactly. You can have any side project, whatever your passion is, that could definitely turn into a side project. So let me just switch that screen again. And yeah, we've got lots of people joining. So usually these kind of conversations, people join right about now, 10, 15 minutes in. So, but I want to kick us off here, man, and just kind of set that stage, right? So it's never probably in the history of humanity been easier to start a side project, right? Whether, start, build, and launch something. But we are all hella busy with kids, emails, meetings, working out. Like we just, life is just full of this stuff, right? But
Yeah.
I guess the question to frame it is like, if I wanted to start something, but I have a 9 to 5, like many of us, like, what do I need to think about? So I think the good question to first ask ourselves as designers is why. So why side projects are a good idea? Like how do you think about this, Philip?
Yeah. So for me, um, how I like to think about it is like many people consider side project as a second job. But for me as a creative, I don't see it like that. Like even though I might like sit additional hours in front of computer, and from the outside it looks like I'm doing the same work, I'm doing design or I'm like designing something. In my mind, it's completely different work, right? It's something I enjoy a lot more because in your 9 to 5 you have a lot of restrictions. You work under someone, you work in the team. There are like different goals, etc. But with your side project you have complete creative freedom, and that's for me it's not work, even though it from the outside looks the same. It isn't, right? For me it's something completely different and something I really enjoy. For me it's like a hobby, and I don't consider it as a work. So even though I might be like super tired after working uh, in my regular job, I still have the mental capacity to work on something else because it's something I really enjoy and I'm really passionate about, right? And I think it's just about like, I don't know, it's in your mind as a creative that we, just to stay like sane and not to burn out, we need to create, and we need to create, and we need to have this creative freedom. And the only way to have a creative freedom is that creating something you want to create, and you like create basically on your own rules, right? So yeah, that's how I basically see it. I don't know how you have it because it's a bit different. You don't have 9 to 5, right? You have your own business, so which is like very interconnected. But yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah. So UX Playbook grew as a side project, and I at that time I didn't have a job, and I was kind of just wandering around. So, but I completely agree in terms of as a creative, side projects give you something that's really interesting, right? Like of course, side projects also have constraints, but they're different typically to the one of your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I love starting side projects, and I think it can be a problem where you're just always starting something versus
Yeah.
finishing something. But it's fun to do that, right? To think of new ideas, to work on it. And fundamentally what you mentioned is like seeing that thing become a reality, so it prevents burnout because
Yeah.
it's work that you want to do, even though you don't have to finish it. It doesn't have to make money, it doesn't have to do
Yeah.
XYZ. But if you're enjoying doing that work, I think
Yeah.
that's good. And there's lots of other benefits to it as well. So let me ask you this, dude. um when you're thinking about a side project, like how do you, I guess, do you define success, or how do you think about it? Is it personal growth? Is it
Mm.
impact? What is that?
Mm, I think it's for every project. a bit different, right? If you have 9 to 5, you have basically the luxury of not having a pressure to make something that you would make money, right? So you actually are able to create something just for fun, and that could be the goal. But also that can turn over time to something profitable. But yeah, I really differentiate because you probably never have one side project. You have multiple side projects, and every side project has a bit different goal. And I think it's always like evolving over time. It usually starts as fun, and then maybe it turns to something else. But whenever, like, doesn't matter what the end goal is. I think you are still learning. Whatever the goal is, you are still learning just by building something or trying new stuff, trying new tools. Whatever you are creating, you are learning, and essentially that will help you either in your career or in your like future growth, and you can use those like skills or tools to build something for yourself, or you can just leverage that in your 9 to 5 job. So
Yeah, and
um,
I think someone actually commented right now in terms of what I was actually going to follow up with, which is like, how do you choose this? Like, is there something in your mind that is there a judgment criteria, or is it very just like, oh, this seems fun, I'm just going to try it? How do you kind of figure out how much you want to, like, I guess, invest time wise into it?
yeah, so for me, like the initial spark is something that needs to, I just need to have fun with it, right? That's like the main like goal for me at the beginning. But then if I think about like more complex projects, um, I think about execution as well. If it's something I can create, right? And these days, as you said, like we have so many tools, we have so many, like the technology involves so much that now there's no real like limits to what you can do. Like you can do so much, right? Like few years ago, I would not probably be able to create GriddyIcons the way I created it, because I would probably need someone to create a website for me, to like connect the paywall, etc. Right now, as a designer, you can do it yourself, and you can create the setup in a week or so. Right? That's incredible. Like, so there are no limits in what we can do right now, like with the AI, with the tools we have. The only limitation is basically your imagination. And I always strive to like come up with some simple ideas that I am able to execute myself, so I don't really depend on anyone else, right? I don't really like to depend on anyone else because I really love to have complete creative freedom when I create my side projects.
Yeah. So this is the concept of like simplicity versus complexity, when to keep it minimal.
Yeah.
So you're saying you don't like to depend on anybody else, so you can do whatever you want. But then does that kind of hamper or dampen creativity? Because if you're like, no, there's this really cool thing I want to do, but I'm probably not the best person to do it. Does that mean that side project is like cut off, or how do you think about
No,
that?
no, that's a good. Yeah, that's the thing. Like every side project, I treat slightly differently, um, and sometimes you need to collaborate. That's just the fact. And now I'm also working on other side project, which I will probably my release like very soon. And there I collaborate with my fiance, which is super nice, and one more like backend developer. Um, but I already learned that you need to collaborate with people that have the same level of passion and their commitment as the same as you are. Otherwise, they will just drag you down. Like so this is something where I would be like super careful. Either I would work on small, simple project where I can execute everything from start to finish, and I have the freedom. I don't need to like, restrict myself because of someone. But then, if you want to work on more complex projects, of course, it's really good to collaborate because you also get a lot of great feedback. But make sure you find partners that are as passionate as you are and committed, because otherwise it won't work.
Yeah. How do you think about like how do you think about cost? So there's obviously, if it's for fun, sure, there's a point you're willing to invest. Like you're willing to invest your time to learn about this thing. How, do you are you like no, I kind of just want to like, do you end up spending money straight away, like new domain name, or are you just like, no, I'm just playing around. If it's worth it, I'll invest. Like, how do you think about that?
Mhm. So I never think about my time invested as a cost. That's the first thing. Like I never consider that, and I mean, maybe I should. Like it is my time I'm investing, and if I would take a gig or have a client, I would probably make money. But again, that would be work. Like, and it's not like it's a side project. It's something you should enjoy. It's like on your free time. So I'm not considering my time invested as a cost. That's the first thing. Second thing, I don't like to invest a lot of money into it at the beginning, but I think having a small investment is a good thing. So, like purchasing a domain, like everyone makes fun of it. We all do that, but it's something that might like push you like this, like just having the sense of, okay, this is now real, and it's not just an idea on paper. It's a real thing. I have a domain, and this is something maybe you need to push you forward to actually execute. So I think that's a good thing. But again, I would not like spend crazy amount of money on something. I would rather like be scrappy at the beginning, especially if it's just for fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you're there's so much to this, right? Like I want to I guess slightly shift gears in terms of like, okay, you've identified a side project and you've said, okay, I want to do it. This is fun, this is interesting. You're like, okay, I'm investing just a little bit of money, a domain, framer, whatever it is, right? Just a little bit to get you
Yeah.
started and committed and say you're on the right path. But then it's like the side project might ramp up, right? So how do you balance that? How do you juggle everything else that you're doing in your life, where it's kids, holidays? Do you have like, are you stressed out that you have to work on your side project, or how does it
Mm.
work for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really try to keep it the way that it wouldn't stress me out, even though, I mean, to be honest, sometimes it just does, because if your side projects turn into something real and it starts, for example, making money, or you start to have customers, you have a commitment, right? And I am the person that really tries to deliver 110%, right? I rather like over deliver than over promise. Um, but that's something you also need to consider when you start the side project is um, how much time you will need to invest in like later on, and really make sure like you have the time to invest it. So we really try to like keep it lean, uh, try to like build it the way that you don't have like a lot of structure around it that you would need to support or maintain, stuff like that. Yeah, because it can be overwhelming, right?
Yeah. Do you have any like sort of tips for making like meaningful progress given like the amount of time sometimes you lack? with life and job? Like how do you manage that?
So if you like commit into something and you really want to commit in something and you want to like finish a project you started to work on, I think like everyone has a bit different approach how they work. What worked for me at the beginning was like just starting, basically jumping in and starting to design. For example, with the icons, it was like there are so many things you need to do. Like you need to set up the website, you need to set up the I don't know, like lemon squeezy or whatever. You need to create the package. It's like create maybe like if you need a company or whatever. Like there's so many things, but maybe like you don't need to think about all of that at the beginning and really just focus on the core product, which in my case were like the icons. And what I did, I just like started to draw icons, and without like everything else around, I just like started to draw. And I said like, okay, my goal was, okay, I want to create 500 icons. Once I have that, I will figure out the rest. But without the pack, like this first 500 icons, I don't have a product, so it doesn't really make sense to think about all this other steps, right? So I just like started to create, and I set myself like this small like goal to create a routine. And I said to myself, okay, I want to create at least 10 icons per day, which I mean, some of the icons you can create, like one icon you can create in a minute, maybe a little less than a minute. It's sometimes you can do it very fast, so it doesn't take you that much time. But just creating this routine really helped me to get through this first phase. And then once you create the routine, it starts to like, ramp up. So yeah.
I want to talk about gritty icons. Yeah, what was the like? What sort of made you sort of create that? Because I mean, I think a lot of people use it. You guys have like a Figma plugin now, and it's all over the internet. Everyone's shouting your praise. I think there was someone in the comments that was like, "I love gritty icons." No, here we go. Let me show that. So Philip's gritty icons are awesome. I've been using them in so many projects already. They work across all platforms, so that's awesome, right? So what gave you that motivation to
Yeah.
start when you don't have folks using it? It's just you and your icons.
Yeah. So I know I'm the type of designer that loves to create everything on their own. So even though I know it's not like very smart approach, sometimes you should take icon set and use it because it's already someone already invested a lot of time in it. They did a great job. They're well designed. You should just use it. The same for the illustrations, etc. But I'm the type of designer that I really love to like craft those small things and try new things. So I always like in every company I worked for, every project I worked on, I always created my own illustrations, my own icons, right? And this started with like different side project where I was like working on, which is now like buried, like never went out. But I started to create some icons there just because I couldn't find the style. Most of the icon sets, they have like very specific style. So either like they're like very rounded, which is like appears soft, etc. Then you have like this sharp edges, but I couldn't find anything like in between. So basically, that's something I liked. I created for my side project, and then I was like, hey, there's like probably a gap in the market with icons, and I already like have few. Maybe I can just like go ahead and create more.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, that's super cool that a lot of people are using it as well. And did the gap in the market, sort of like the differentiating thing, because you couldn't find it, was that also a motivation for you where you're like, oh, actually, this could be different?
Yeah, yeah. I think that was like the main, like with every side project. I think you need like this is kind of like driving force inside of you is seeing that you have something unique. It doesn't necessarily need to be like unique idea because it's really hard to like invent something, but it's really easy to innovate. It's really easy to take something what it's already there, someone is selling, and then just tweak something and make it your own that no one like thought about. Or yeah, it's for that's also the thing. But I think that you don't really need to do like a lot of research, like, because if I didn't even like thought about making a research and like trying to validate if this is the icon someone will buy. Like I saw like there are multiple icon sets out there already, and guys are selling those, right? So why couldn't I like do it the same way? So yeah.
Are you side quest or side tangent? You're nearly ready to talk about your new thing, your new side project, but not quite. Is that correct?
Um, yeah, I mean, we can talk about it.
Okay, so I mean, it's up to you, right? Like, depending on when you want to release it. But just quickly, how did you come up with, or like, because you're obviously bringing in your fiance and a developer, so it was like this is clearly like you can't do everything on your own. I'm going to have some people involved, make sure that they're on board with the idea. So I guess my question is, how did you know that this is something worth
Mhm.
pursuing and bringing in people?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. So with this, I have a lot of ideas. I have like a huge list of different ideas, but I also have like a lot of experience, and I already like I'm able to validate or like evaluate if the idea is simple or not. Like I know what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of, and also I'm like aware of what other developers are capable of, if I need like a huge team or if this is doable with one person, right? And in this case, it's a bit of a cliche, but I really had a dream about this, and I woke up and then like early in the morning, and I couldn't fall asleep because I was like always thinking about it and like already like making some improvements in my head. And once my fiance woke up, like the first thing I told her was this idea, and she thought about it like a few seconds. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So, and like having a person that you can like talk to and like just explore the idea and get like this instant first raw feedback might be something you need to like to make a call if this is something good or not. But basically explaining what I want to do, she agreed that it's simple, we can build it on our own, doesn't take a lot of time, it's already working, why not trying it, basically.
Got it. Got it. Are you serving the niche of designers? Are you helping designers in some way, or is this a completely different type of
um,
person?
I think I can disclose what it is about. Like, so basically what we are building is small like micro site builder. Like imagine basically Linktree or Bento.me, something like that. So I'm not sure if we want to like target only designers. I think it's for basically everyone working in the creative industry, either like designers, product managers, developers, whoever, like basically, yeah.
Nice, cool. Fun fact: I tried to build something similar like 2 years ago, but it just never got anywhere because I was focused on UX Playbook. But yeah, that's because Linktree
Exactly.
sucks. Like it just sucks. I don't know why. Like I don't know why
Yeah,
it's so big, but like I think it's really smart of them to acquire Bento.me. That was definitely a
yeah,
different take. But yeah, it's just it sucks, but people tend to like the
yeah,
simplicity. So there's definitely market share that you can take
yeah,
from Linktree, even if you just
yeah.
slightly differentiate. So that's
Yeah, that's
exciting.
some like that's also the reason like why we didn't really like try to validate the idea. We also like, it's our side project. It doesn't like, it won't hurt if it flops. Like we already like learned a lot. It was fun to build with my fiance, so there are no like huge stakes in it. And as you said, like I also think like Linktree sucks, but also like it has terrible design. It's just like huge buttons, right? And we want to keep that simplicity, just make it visually nice, and also like super simple, because where, even though like I liked Bento, but I was never like a huge fan, because of they really tried to play this design trend card basically, right? And it's also like super shame that they were acquired, because now it's a dead project. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when Linktree comes knocking at your door, I'm gonna play this video back to you, and you're gonna be like, "No sell, no sell, kids." Oh my god. Okay. So we're gonna get to like our portion of like ask me anything. So for the folks listening, um, you know, Fillip has built a bunch of side projects. One that you may use in the future or currently use, like GriddyIcons. I've done a bunch of side projects myself. So if you have any questions on like if you're a newbie, in the field, how do you treat side projects, or if you have an idea and you're a senior, how do you know when to double down on it? Like, feel free to ask us as many questions as possible. But to warm us up, Fillip, I'm gonna throw some questions at you that I've prepared. Just so, because usually what happens is someone asks a question and everybody asks a question. So I want to be that sort of catalyst for us today. Okay, so this one is, I think, people worry about this one quite a bit, which is like, how do I choose a side project that won't compete with my employer's interests? Or is that something I should even care about? Like, how do you think about that
Oh,
stuff?
that's, I mean, depends on the contract you have, I guess. um Interesting. I never thought about it, because the projects, or the company I work for, or the projects I worked for before, they're like way too complex that I would probably not be able to execute on my own. And I really like try to aim to work on more simple stuff. But I actually know that, did you know that I think it was a Beehive. I think Beehive was internal project in one company, and then the guy who like created it in there said like, okay, but this is something maybe I can like just take out and create a product out of it, and they were like fine with it. So I think in the like very basic level, it's just about the communication. Just be straight up with your, I don't know, like whoever is like managing you. Maybe it's okay. If it's not, then you should probably consider leaving the job or so. No, just making fun.
Yeah. The company was Morning Brew, so they grew to like
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
millions
yeah.
of subscribers. Yeah, which is crazy because it's like at that time there was not really any like specific
Yeah,
newsletter tools. So clearly they built like a growth engine inside it. So Beehive
yeah.
story is super great because that I also think that's why they're
Yeah.
getting
I
market
wonder
share.
if they regret
Um, yeah.
letting them to just go on their own.
I bet you that one of the first investors were
Yeah,
probably Morning Brew.
probably. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it would make sense. Or at least
yeah,
they've probably invested in them now. Yeah, but I really like what you said because you said, check your contract, right? Like, see if it's a breach because if it is a breach, then that's a
mm,
no no. But then, like, you're like actually asking if you don't
yeah,
know and if there's anything fuzzy, and sometimes the best ideas are the ones that you're already kind
yeah,
of in, right? Like you see a problem, but your company is just not solving it because of XYZ priorities. And that is actually a good place to
yeah,
start at the problem. And then, if they don't solve it and they'll never solve it,
yeah,
there's nothing to say that why can't you
yeah.
solve it, right? That just makes sense, I think. And that's just easy because you're like facing this issue like every day at work or something. Um,
Yeah.
let me see if there's a question for us. It seems like, oh yeah, okay. Here we go. How do you approach integrating effective icon design in a seamless UI UX experience, ensuring both visual consistency and understanding across diverse platforms? Well, this is an
Yeah.
icon specific question, but Philip, do you want to have a go at
Yeah.
this?
In terms of understanding the icons, what you really need to do is pair them with the label. Like there are only few universally known and understandable icons. You don't need to like put the label on, but in most cases, you better like pair them with the label, or at least like display the label on hover, so you don't confuse your users, right? And in terms of like visual consistency, like when I create icons, I like created some rules at the beginning. I try to follow, but like you need to like create a lot of icons to know where you need to break those rules, because it's just like naturally you cannot create this like overly complicated rigid structure you will follow. You sometimes you just like need to like break those rules and yeah, to make it look nice. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, man. Okay, we'll keep those questions coming, guys. Um, I am gonna ask another one, which is, how do you avoid burnout with like doing your day job and your side project? I know you mentioned this earlier, where it's like if you're having fun, it doesn't feel like work, therefore it can
Yeah.
prevent burnout. But are there other ways that you're like where you felt, dude, I'm slogging it out and I've like, I'm clocking in 8 hours at work and then 4 hours at night and like I don't have time for myself. How do you kind of get rid of that feeling of
Yeah,
burnout?
I mean, for me, really having a side project is how I cope with burnout. So like that's why like the question we discussed before, the hypothetical question that you create something that is similar to what you like work on in the day job. For me, I don't really, I cannot imagine it, because I really like with my side projects, I really like to work on something else, right? So that's how I like, that's why I think it's important to have those side projects where you like switch your focus on something else. And then like, I like to go to gym, I like to work out, I like to just like read a book, sit down and read a book, um, be off the screen, not necessarily be like, I don't mean like designing, but mostly like social media, not doom scrolling something, right? If I'm like on screen designing something, I don't really consider that being on screen, because for me it's just like using this tool to create, right? When I say being on screen, it's just basically like just scrolling or reading some news or whatever, which is not really helping in yeah. So but what about you? I would like to know like how do you, because what I would also ask you, like you have a lot of side projects, you have a lot of like active projects that you like make money of, but do you have also like small side projects that are like you work on just to have fun, and what are those?
Um, I think Backlog, the origins of it was like, so we're in this designer Slack group, right? And it's like quite busy. There's like 200-ish people or whatever it is. I think it got up to close to 300 at one time. So it's a pretty big group. So there's a feeling of loss of intimacy. You don't want to overshare. And you don't really know, like you're not that
Yeah.
comfortable, right? There's always imposter syndrome and stuff. So like I had and I really wanted to learn about like designers and how they thought about business and what are other people doing. So then I just started this community, right? And it was just like, hey, if you're doing cool things, come on in. So that's the origin of that like wasn't really a money goal. But then what ended up happening was like people like one craved community, especially when you're a solopreneur, you're like doing your own thing. And then two is like they're like, oh, Chris, kind of need some help on this creator design business stuff. And I was like, oh, cool. So but to your question of like, you have a lot of side projects. Are there projects that you do that don't have any like money associated to it? So like that was the start of it.
Mhm.
Like Backlog was one start, but actually, I think I'm doing what you're doing, like with your side projects. Like you're having a lot of fun. I think my business or the thing I'm doing now is a lot of fun. Like the entity and the little things I'm doing on the side is really fun. Not to say that it doesn't feel like crap sometimes, and you know, like you're going through an emotion, but net, it's really
Mhm.
fun. So I've tried to create something that I like, call work also fun, and I think that's kind of how I prevent
Mhm.
burnout. And then you'll know when you're not having fun because those projects basically just
Yeah.
die over time. It just kind of fizzles out, and I'm one of those designers that it just be like, whatever. Like I don't mind just ignoring it for a minute, and then I just
Mhm.
completely forget
Yeah.
about it, right? So yeah, that's how I
Yeah.
deal with that.
Do you also like have some projects or hobbies that are not like digital? Do you work on something that is, for example, like physical product, or I don't know, like creating something like woodworking or whatever?
Um, I know you do, but I used to play a lot of
Okay.
sports, so that was a huge hobby of mine. So that was, you know, I think that was pre-COVID. I was really active, but then after COVID, it just kind of everything just went down. But I don't have anything I would say like making. Like I like games, and a board game that I've wanna try to get back into is
Oh,
chess. You
nice.
know, everybody was playing chess, when Queen's Gambit was, but I've been playing it as a kid, so, I wanna do that, more. But tell us about your physical things. I've always wanted to make physical things, but I've just never kind of got into that. But you said you do some,
Yeah.
like, crafts and stuff,
I
right?
mean, I have like bunch of tools that I can create with. Um, my like this is probably like my ultimate goal would be to create a physical product, and sell it. Um, and like now it's so easy to do. It's incredibly easy to create something. Like you can create something on your 3D printer and like start a shop in few days and like mass produce it in some like 3D farm, deliver product to your customers. So there is no like before that there I had some like limitations because of like the execution part of manufacturing or whatever. Now we have those possibilities, so I hope like at some point I will be able to like produce something. I don't know what it would be, but for example, I what I tried was I really like I'm really into like glasses frames, like frames, right? And I really like to wear like distinctive frames that are like different, right? And there is like actually like not a lot of shops in my area or in my country that they would sell like specific pair of glasses. So that's something what I wanted to create, and I actually went that far that I like designed the pair, four different pairs, and actually got them produced in Italy as like samples. But that was basically the end of the journey. I hope maybe at some point I will just continue, but it was just very. I basically just hit the limit of my knowledge when it comes to producing that specific type of product. But maybe once I have like more time, I will like get back into it and learn a bit more about it and like try to uh, produce glasses or something else.
Yeah, that'll be super cool. And I can't wait till the day where like most consumers have a 3D printer, like we used to have printers at
Yeah,
home, or like because it will just be the coolest thing to just kind of like order something, print it,
it's super
and
cool. Yeah.
that would be
But
really
even though, like,
fun.
even if you
Yeah.
don't have it now, like, you have so many shops there, you can just send the 3D design and they will print it for yourself. Like, if you don't want to invest in that tool, fine, but you can still, like, it's like relatively cheap to produce 3D print you designed, right? um like, this technology involved so much, it's incredible. Like, you probably seen that video of, I don't know the name of the creator, but he collaborated with on this, like, they created this like iPhone stand. uh
Yep.
yeah, it's
So
so good.
good.
Like,
It's
I
so
also
good.
printed one, I have it on my desk. But it's
Really?
like, that's the thing, like, they created the design in few days, right? They tested it, they like tweaked it, they printed themselves, make sure like it looked perfect, and now they created the video on YouTube, went viral, and a lot of people like were, okay, I don't have a 3D printer, but I want this, right? So they, like, in matter of days, they set up the shop, they set up the manufacturing, and now they're like selling those things like hot. uh, you know, it's insane. And this is what you can do today, right? Like, the possibilities are basically limitless.
And the video was
Yeah,
so
and the
good,
production
man.
was
Like
really good. Yeah,
so good, and it's like just distribution
yeah,
unlocked, like to go viral like that, and the product
yeah.
was good. So it was like great product, awesome sort of production
Yeah.
quality and distribution. So we have something that just came in. As someone who enjoys experimenting with new ideas and innovative designs, how can I strike a balance between pursuing creative boundaries and meeting client demands for simplicity and familiarity?
I mean, that's a hard question, right? Because if if you work with the client, you have certain types of restrictions, right? And you just need to communicate. You need to, like, I think what a lot of designers struggle with is articulating the design decisions. But if you learn that, and if you like push your creativity, and you are able to articulate the reason why you did it the way that you did, then you may be able to sell it to the stakeholders, right? um, but it's like, you work with clients, maybe you have like better answer. I don't really like work with clients at all. So uh,
I guess I would say I think one is like ha- uh, I mean, working with clients is all about, or working with anybody, it's about trust, right?
yeah,
I trust you to do a good job. Don't screw me over, like like all this stuff, right? So there's a foundation of trust that has to be built, and if you've worked with someone for years in the same company, there's that trust already there. So you would get more freedom and more time potentially to experiment and to kind
yeah,
of play around with things, right? But also you don't have to ask for permission to
yeah,
experiment unless it's like a life and death solution. Most digital solutions are not that, so you can do whatever, and it's easy to sort of get started, uh, desk research, do all
yeah.
this stuff, right? To do so. So like time, develop trust. The last one is how do you push the creative boundaries when the client demands for simplicity, right, and things that are familiar. You have to, I believe, be really entrenched in the problem space. You almost have to be in it for years because it's like you can't really come up with something, you can't really push the creative boundaries sometimes if you don't really know what you're dealing with. Like you can bring a novel idea from somewhere else to an existing space. But I think things that really work is also knowing that space really, really
Yeah.
well, right? And being like, okay, well, what boundaries can I push that sticks into the same field and meets these requirements that the users face or the client needs or whatever it is. So, there's kind of two school of thoughts there, which is like, well, how well do you know the problem and how much time have you spent thinking about this? And then it's like, well, what other similar things that are in different industries, different fields that you can bring in, right? All different types of knowledge. Like a lot of people get influenced by nature in terms
Yeah.
of design. So maybe, can that be applicable? But those are some sort of like primers and thoughts. Obviously, there's no one
Yeah.
right answer.
But there are always some trade-offs, right? You need to make. If you want to have complete freedom, just work on your side project. Like that's, I think, the solution.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, let's go to the next question that I have here. Oh, this is again like the transparency of employer. Let's not ask that. Let's ask how do you like so okay, let's say you're working on a side project like Griddy Icons, you've done a bunch of icons. So you already had like a view of like, okay, I should release this, launch it to the shop, other people should use it. Do you have like when do you know that you should like quote unquote make it a side hustle versus a side project?
Maybe you would have better answer for this because for me it's always a side project, right? I guess once it's if it gets enough traction and if you see that there is enough demand on what you've created and you have the clear sides of potential, you should definitely consider like investing more time in it and like committing more. But I never got into that point. But also like if I would push myself, I might get it to that point. But for me, I kind of like it the way it is, that it's just the side project. It doesn't really like push me where I don't really want to go, and I don't really have like this additional like stress or anything around it. So yeah, but I would definitely not jump in straight in if you like haven't like validated it first the way that okay it's making some money and you see clear signs that it can make more, right? You really need to be confident to make that decision because you're sacrificing your like financial security, right? uh, which is like it's a huge risk, right? I think you did that, right? um, so what was the point for you to make a decision?
So I would say it's by accident, dude. So I was working me and my partner, my ex co-founder, we were like working on this startup, right? And UX Playbook was in the background, and it basically organically grew. People were sharing like the templates online and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, okay, this is a thing. Maybe I should put more energy into it. But at the beginning, it was like thought it would be valuable, and it wasn't really. It was never really going to be his
Mm,
business of his own. I just thought, oh, someone would find this valuable. Like, I'll put a price tag there for validation. I think one guide was like $1, and then some
mm,
people bought it, and I was like, oh crap, like this is cool. So it was like very
mm.
incrementally, right? Very different to the stories that we hear, which is like, I have an idea, I'm going to build a startup, and you're like, hold on a minute, dude, like whatever,
Yeah,
man.
but the story I
Very different.
heard many times is usually like people make this huge transition when they are forced to make it. Like a lot of people got laid off and there was no other choice, right? They like maybe even tried to find another job, but they like the process, especially nowadays, is just ridiculously long and it's really hard to get a job, right? So over time, like they tried to fill the gap and they were really forced to push something out. And this is like very common story. So yeah, if I would get laid, that's maybe something I would probably do as well, right? That would be the external push maybe I need to like really pursue. But then again, like the side projects turns into your 9 to 5 basically. So
Yeah, yeah. Actually, as you said that, it's true. Like our startup failed, and it was like, oh, this other thing is making passive income. So what happens if we just kind of put more behind the engine, and start doing a lot of things on the internet? And I mean, it was a real stress at the time, but then things worked out. But there was I guess, like 18 months where it, it kind of didn't really do anything
mm,
for us, right? Like it didn't replace our full-time jobs. It didn't so it was it was stressful, but you're right. It was kind of forced as well. It's like, what do we want to do? Should I go get a job? Do we spin up, like try and start another company, or do we work on something that's actually giving us, validated in a sense, right? Some level of product
yeah.
market fit. Um, but yeah. But side project wise, so can you tell us the name of the side project, Philip, or is that still under wraps?
Um, so the name is the gist of.
The
Yeah.
gist of.
So it will be
Okay.
the gist of .me.
Wait. Okay. Okay. Cool. Sorry, I was just reading this, and so it says, "Why are you guys in Harsley? Isn't it cold over there? Are we wearing the same T-shirt as well, dude?
No, no,
I think I
no.
just rolled my
But
sleeves up.
it's cold
Okay.
here. I'm in
Uh,
Prague and it's quite cold.
and then, so someone was funny because they also said, Chris, is that you? I think this is the first ever time I've actually worn a hat
Ah.
to one of these lives, and people are like, who the hell is this guy?" Okay. Um, so you're working on this side project. How's Griddy going? Griddy's going well. Any big plans for Griddy?
um, I have actually, yeah, there might be like huge change in this year. Um, I really, so right now there are 100 free icons, and basically the whole package and everything is under the paywall. You need to like pay some price based on like how many users will use it, whatever. What I really want to do is to open it a bit more, like to offer a lot more for free, because I already like got some money out of it. It's really nice to see designers using my icons, and I would really like to like give back to community and open it as much as possible. So we'll see how much I will open it, but definitely in the future there will be more icons for free than it is right now.
Got it. Oh, that's exciting, man. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I've heard, like, I have the icons, but I've heard, yeah, a lot of people speak how about how they use it and how valuable it is. So that's really cool. So guys, check out Griddy if you're trying to find some cool icons online. What's the database of icons at the moment? How many icons do you
Oh,
have in the package?
more than I don't I would probably need to check, but it's more than thousands. But it depends
Okay.
how you calculate it because there is also like a solid version, right? So if you count the solid version, it's basically double of that. So yeah, definitely more than thousand, and it's constantly growing. I always like the so if you purchase, you can request. There are always like some customers requesting, which also helps me a lot because they don't really need to think about what icons I need to add. Like they just provide the list and I'm like, yes, I will do that, and I would just add those icons they need. Yeah.
I saw something that you shared on LinkedIn not too long ago, which was like your favorite icon. You're like, I found my favorite icon, and it was like I guess the
Yeah,
beach chair one with the
yeah.
palm trees. Yeah, that was awesome, dude. That was so good.
But it's already like I already
So
have. Yeah, it's so
simple.
simple. But I already have different one. I will probably share it soon.
Okay, you already have a different beach there. Okay. Oh, a
Yeah,
different
different favorite.
favorite.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it.
It's always like every time I like create new sets, basically, it's like I find one or two icons that I completely fell in love with. So, but that's the fun part of like
Brilliant.
working on our side project. So
Yeah. So I guess the encouragement for folks out there is like, don't treat it like a side hustle just yet. Just
yeah,
have fun and see what you learn from it, and don't have super high expectations. And if you're not having fun, you can always
yeah,
drop it. Nobody knows. Don't have to tell anybody if you don't want
exactly.
to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, dude, do you have anything else to plug? Like anything to share to the audience? Any ask from the audience? Like we've already put Griddy back on the screen. Anything else that you want the audience to know?
Not really. Just like yeah, if you are interested in what I will like release soon, what I'm building currently, besides the griddy icons, just follow me on LinkedIn. I'm also like active on other platforms, but LinkedIn is probably the best place where you can follow me, and I will. Yeah, it should be out soon. Hope you will like it. Definitely, it's the worst version that it'll ever be. So we're open for feedback. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, so go follow Philip for the announcement of his new tool that's coming out. That's gonna get acquired by or not get acquired by LiveStream, so he can do what he wants and make it way better. Um, so do that. Okay, Philip, I want to take you off stage for a minute while I wrap up. Just give me 2 minutes, and then I'll we can have a chat just
Okay,
after the call.
thanks
Yeah.
for having me, and
Okay, man.
all good for everyone who joined. Ciao.
Cheers, man. Okay, so quickly as we wrap this up, just want to thank you, Philip, again. Please go follow him on LinkedIn. It should be in YouTube description. If you're on LinkedIn, you can just click his profile picture. But I want to tell you about the next event. Here we go. I'm trying to find these buttons again. So if you are interested in more of these live streams and live events, you can go to live.uxplaybook.org. Just type in your email and I'll send you an email when the next one is. We typically have 2 events a month speaking about all types of topic. Again, where you get to listen to us talk as senior designers and you get to ask us questions about the topic at hand. And the next event is the January 15th, so actually next week, on how designers can use Gen AI. And I'll be speaking to Lennart, a university professor and research chair. So he's spent a lot of time thinking about this and playing with this. So if you're a designer that still doesn't know how to use Gen AI, then you should definitely tune in and he'll give us like some actionable things so we can take away. Because I know for me, I don't use Gen AI enough, and I'm sure I could use it in ways that would benefit me and just to make my workflow a little bit easier. Okay, so sign up to that live.uxplaybook.org. And before we go, I want to tell you one last time about Backlog. It's my effort to help designers build their independent businesses slash side projects or side hustles if you want through community, a group of people on the same journey, coaching, me being a thought partner to solve some of your problems. And we have people in the community that are working on their agencies, freelancing, digital products, newsletters, content, whatever. We have a lot of folks doing a bunch of stuff. So if you want support to start your next side project or freelancing, it's kind of the perfect place to be. And so if you're interested, you can scan this. It's just backlog.design. So before we go, I will play this outro. Thank you, everybody. And until next time, bye. This is the design of everyday people. There's the video.
It sound right, boy.
Is the design of everyday people.
It sound right, boy.